Congressman Ron Paul, fresh from yet another rally, will be coming to us from deep in the heart of Texas, Victoria, Texas. It does bear saying that even if people have made up their minds, this is by no means a locked race, and your participation definitely matters come Tuesday if you're in one of the primary or caucus states. We are now moving on, I believe, to our next candidate. This is coming to us live from Victoria, Texas, where we have an opportunity to speak with Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman Paul, are you there? Can you hear me? Hello, Congressman Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to MySpace and MTV's Super Dialogue.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
We just wanted to open up the floor to this whole studio audience and the internet, throwing questions for you, trying to lock up the vote of young and undecided voters. So our first one is going to come from my colleague Sway across the room.
Thank you, Congressman Paul, for joining us tonight. The first question is actually coming from Stephanie. She's here in our audience.
Hi, Congressman Paul. During the genocide in Rwanda, the international community turned its back and failed to intervene, and as a result, hundreds of thousands of preventable deaths occurred. Now, the genocide in Darfur has raged on for more than 5 years, despite international outcry. As President of the United States, what role will you make sure the U.S. has in ensuring that the genocide in Darfur does not become the new Rwanda?
Well, under our Constitution, we have no authority. Under the rules of compassion and morality as individuals, and we're a wealthy country, yes, we all have an obligation to do whatever we can. But if you use a moral authority and you use the force of government to go and try to solve these social problems in Africa, it's the same force that you use to try to democratize Iraq, because you have to take money from one group of taxpayers here in the United States to do good in Iraq. So I don't believe in using force in that manner. But, you know, in an interim period of time, I don't even particularly like the United Nations to be involved because it undermines our national security. But too often the United Nations gets involved in starting wars. The very first thing the United Nations did was got us involved in the Korea War, and we still have troops over there, and we're going bankrupt doing it. But if you had an interim period of time and you had a United Nations and you had some of these international bodies, you certainly would get them out of the business of promoting war and using force around the world, and you could do some of these humanitarian things. But strictly speaking, under our Constitution, we're not allowed to do that, no matter how well motivated it is. And the tragedy of some of these programs that are motivated to help the poor and the starving and the suffering is that the food and the resources are sent to governments. They're the armies. The strongest body takes these things and they become weapons of war. So if you look at the history over the last 10, 20, or 30 years where we have made our effort, it really never got to the people it was intended to help. So first, we undermine our economic system here by taking it from working people here, and then we end up in a good effort either in Iraq or in Rwanda with an intent of helping people, and it really doesn't end up doing it. It serves the interests of powerful special interests. So therefore, for constitutional reasons and for practical reasons, I don't endorse that concept, but in the interim period, if you did have funds in the United Nations, I certainly would use those funds in this manner to help people who are starving and having these difficulties, and hopefully we could be better in allotting these funds to do a much better job.
I have another question for you. It is from Kate. She's a student at Rutgers University.
Hi, Congressman. Recently, pharmaceuticals have stopped subsidizing birth control costs for college health centers, so you've seen prices rise from $5 or $10 a month to around $40 or $50. And in addition, the HPV shot for young women has gone up to about $540. So I was wondering, if you were elected, how would you deal with this issue to try and ensure that young women could still be protected at an affordable rate?
Well, not by robbing people, somebody else that's not interested in this subject. That would never be a justification of taxing somebody to do good for somebody else. Prices go up. If you're concerned about prices, which is what you said, prices go up because the value of the dollar goes down. The value of the dollar goes down because we print too many of them. Why do we print too many dollars? Well, to fight wars that are unnecessary and undeclared and run a welfare state. So if you are concerned about prices of anything in medical health care, you have to deal with the subject of the dollar. The dollar is in big trouble now because for decades now we have just printed dollars dollars in order to pay our bills. But when it comes to doing good for our neighbors, no matter how well intended, it doesn't justify taking those funds from somebody else. You can't just say, well, the government is supposed to do this, because when the government does it, they have no resources. They have to take it from somebody else, or they borrow it, or they print the money to do it. And then when you do that, you cause the prices to go up. So you've defeated the purpose and the intent of what you wanted to do. So the government being involved in distributing any type of medication literally ends up in trouble. Just look at what has happened in the last 35 years since we've had managed health care. We've turned the business over to the corporations. The drug companies have control of these products, and they lobby Congress, and they're running the medical system. So we have corporatism. So as long as you endorse some combination of government and corporations to solve some of these problems, all you're going to get is worse medical care and higher costs, and the very people you're trying to help will not be helped.
Congressman Paul, it's Chris from WashingtonPost.com. I wanted to, I think you've been brief, but I wanted to make sure you know we're taking instant feedback in both polling and in instant messages. So I wanted to run both of those by you. We asked folks, do you trust Congressman Paul to effectively deal with the Darfur genocide? And I think you can see this. You've got about 6 in 10 people saying yes, and just 38% saying no. So that's good news. But